What's up, everybody? Welcome. We are here with FanDuel Large Field GPP DFS strategy for Super Bowl 56, Los Angeles Rams, Cincinnati Bengals. That's right, the biggest GPPs you can find, $1 million up top. We're here to break down strategy, how to build lineups, who to fade, do we play Cooper Kupp, where do we get weird? All those questions answered in this video. What's up? I'm Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy, joined by multi-time single game winner over there on FanDuel, Jack, owner of dfsMagic, creator of the lineup builder at Occupy Fantasy. Jack, what's up, man?
Hey Brian, how many videos is this for you now with these contests?
Dude, we're getting up there. Video per day, it seems like. I got another video to record after this and another one to record tomorrow, so we're banging them all out. So trying to hit the Super Bowl from every angle, man.
Yeah, no, that sounds good, and it sounds like I know you don't do it often, but you might be joining me in the FanDuel large field fray on Sunday.
I think I have to, dude. Anytime you can enter $5 for a chance at $1 million, I think you have to. You have to do it again. And I mean, I got to be the first person to hit 2 millies on a Super Bowl, so I got to maximize my chances at that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do, and it'll take something even more special, I think, to get unique in that contest. But I think we'll get into some ways that you could try to do it.
For sure. So we already have videos out for cash games for Super Bowl 56, small field GPPs for Super Bowl 56. We will also have a DraftKings large field video, and we'll have a props video. I mean, just tons of videos. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Get notified when we go live, upload any new videos. Go check out those other videos we already did. Give us a thumbs up if you like the Super Bowl content. Any questions, comment on the video below. But I'll be in Vegas starting Thursday, so your best bet to get questions answered is probably in our Discord server. So click the join button below this video. So Jack, the biggest thing that we have to recognize for the Super Bowl compared to a regular showdown slate on FanDuel is the fact that we have just massive fields, even more massive than usual. So the Pooch Punt, which I have up here on screen, the 5-cent contest, 958,000 entries. The Big Game Bowl, the Millie to First, 792,000. The Hail Mary, the 25-cent, 257,000. The Dive, the $1 even has 119,000 entrants. And again, I haven't played FanDuel as much this year, but these are noticeably bigger, right, than the regular size contest. So how does that change the strategy for us?
Yeah, I laughed. I was on mute, but I was laughing when you read those numbers. It's just insanity. It's especially insane on FanDuel because, like we know, with just 5 roster spots, there's just not that many lineups that you can make, right? So it changes in a couple ways. I think the first one is, those lineups that you were entering to try to be unique in the 20 to 40,000 person range contests, that may not work when you have 900,000. You will be duped enough that it may be a situation where you're not actually happy with the amount of money that you would win. So I think we always talk about this, Brian, but the first thing is to decide if you're entering these contests, what is your goal, right? How many lineups are you willing to enter, and are you actually wanting to play for that unique or very low duplicated prize, or are you okay with some pretty heavily duped lineups? Because again, depending on the contest, even a lot of dupes could be a good amount of money given your objectives.
Yeah, and it depends on how many you're entering, right? If you're max entering, and again, we talk about max entering, I think a lot of people have this perception that it means a massive bankroll. And sure, if you enter the $5 or the $9, yes, that's a lot of money to enter with 150 lineups. But again, the contest that I have here on screen is the 5-cent entry to practice your MME skills, or this is what your bankroll is, and you've been doing well. 5 cents, right? Times 150. Even so, if you look at the top prize here, the $40,000 prize pool, you still may not make money even in the 5-cent contest. But again, if you're just saying, hey, it's Super Bowl Sunday, I'm going to throw a couple lineups in for fun, then you're probably more okay with those lineups being duped because the entry fees that you're putting in there are not as significant as if you 150 max the contest.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with that, I think instead of, looking at the exact strategy we'd normally use in these situations, we should probably start by talking about, Kupp, right? Because if you talk about how to get different on this slate, it starts and ends with whether you use him, and then if you use him, how are you going to get different?
Right. So when you played the playoff slates and you played some of these slates, and our projected ownership will be up by the time this video is posted, where do you see him ending up as far as ownership goes at both the MVP spot and overall, just based on the pricing in the slate, which is a little bit different than a normal Ram slate, and based on what he's been going in previous slates.
Yeah, so we've seen him pretty regularly in the 30% MVP range, which is insane,
Yes.
insane for a receiver. I mean, I know he's amazing, but let me put it this way: it's unprecedented. Whether it's insane or not, it's unprecedented. We've never seen it.
Like even
and to
Devontae
your
Adams
point-
and stuff like was never hitting 30%.
Yeah, he was even like 20 to 25. Yeah, exactly. And what's more, I learned this from you, is that they softened the pricing for the Super Bowl a little bit. So while Kupp would have been the 17.5 max price on FanDuel, I think. Here he's only 16, so he's really kind of even with the quarter. He's 500 more than Stafford. So when you combine the softer pricing, the recent game log, and the fact that it's a lot more casual people, I really would not be shocked to see 40. I would guess something in like the 35 to 40 range for MVP.
That's insane, man. So okay, so if 30 to 40% of the field start their lineup with one way, that's really tough to get different in a contest of this size, right? So if you're playing any amount of lineups, I just don't see how it's possible. Well, I guess my question to you is, how is it possible? Is it possible to play him in MVP and feel comfortable about the duplication and uniqueness? I mean, and just even from a game theory perspective, right? You have to beat, even if you get that right, you still have to beat what, 350,000 entries, right?
Yeah, yeah. To me, I am very likely to not play him in the massive contest. I will play him, like you've talked about in the other videos. It'd be stupid to not play him at all, right? But there's contests where you can use him and still, get. You don't need to worry about uniqueness as much. So yeah, I'm with you. I think if you wanted to go there, couple routes we have seen win before are, one, the anti-correlated lineups, right? So you play Burrow instead of Stafford. With Kupp, we've seen Burrow be running a little bit more. Stafford's certainly not a runner. I know he lucked into a quarterback sneak, I don't know, a couple weeks ago or something. But that's one way. But again, to your point, I think even if you do that, it's still not enough. People are still going to do that because there's just so many entries. So it's probably that plus still playing, some low-owned players leaving salary. You could also look at the zero quarterback route, right? It's pretty concentrated scoring on the slate overall. But again, I mean, people do play those lineups, and I'm with you, man. It's just really tough to play him in these size contests and expect to take down a unique prize or even something low duplicated.
Right. So just to reiterate, Cooper Kupp is the best play on the slate. And for most contests, you're going to want to play him. But this video is specifically for FanDuel contests with 100,000 or more people, and you have to think differently if you're going to win a top prize in these contests. Secondly, Jack, the fact that you framed it as Stafford luck boxed into a rushing touchdown is just like the ultimate evidence that you're a Showdown player. by describing it that way.
The non, man, the non-rushing chalk non-rushing quarterbacks getting rushing TDs. It's just shoot me. But
dude, it's absolutely the worst. It's actually the worst. So
I will throw. Let me throw one more at you for way you could play Kupp at MVP here.
Okay.
As we've seen, the favored team, the Rams, has a lot of the higher projected players on some of the more popular sites, right? Could I talk you into a 1-4 construction with Kupp as the only Ram at the MVP spot and then playing 4 Bengals?
Absolutely. I mean, it's been 21 weeks now. Teams still haven't decided to double team Kupp or even shade coverage his way. So why would they stop now? And if that's the case, he could easily be the highest score on the slate and just gobble up all the volume and production on the Rams side, which means there's not a lot left for other Rams players to get there into the optimal lineup. So I agree. I think that might be the best way, honestly, to play Kupp is with a 1-4 construction.
Yeah. So, I think before we move on to what we do without him, I think to recap for people, if you are trying to win a solo unique prize, you just can't play him. Certainly not MVP. If you are okay with some duplication, but you're looking for ways to get different, I think what we talked about are, one, that 1-4 construction that we just mentioned, 2, anti-correlated, play Burrow instead of Stafford, or 3, zero quarterback approach. Do you think those are the kind of the main 3 ways if you wanted to try to get different, you could do it?
I think with Kupp, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
So now let's think about another way, right? And I think for most mass multi-entry Showdown GPPs, you want to play an angle to the max generally, right? And I know you're good at doing this with, say, going all in on one MVP, and it works really well for you. So I think of a contest this size, some of the crazy angles you can think about taking involve things like one, playing a minimum of one player below 6,500 in every single lineup you play. And on this slate, it is gross. These two teams do not play reserve players. They don't rotate in players. So the guys that are below that price generally won't see the field outside of an injury or something crazy would have to happen. That's one angle for me, and we'll dive into each one of these. The other one is exclusively playing low-owned MVPs, right? We have Kupp, Stafford, Burrow are going to be the highest owned of the group, all 10% or higher. Then there's a second tier group, and maybe you can go lower than that, or you leave a bunch of salary on the table. So let's walk through those one by one, Jack. And if you have another example, I'm all ears for sure. But as far as the trash plays are concerned, I'm going to scroll down here on the screen. Once we get below, I mean, probably Drew Sample even qualifies if CJ Uzama suits up. But you got Sample, Skoranek, and then you got guys that literally never play. So what are your thoughts on going with that route?
It is gross, man. I mean, you hit it on the head. The only thing I can think of is perhaps if, we may have the situation where the injured tight ends are active, and it's kind of not clear if they're healthy or not, or how many snaps guys are playing, and that could lead to both of them being depressed. But Brian, I think we still expect those guys to at least be kind of like 10 to 15% owned at lower, right? Like, we're not going to get away with a tight end at 2% ownership that's going to play half the game, right?
No,
doesn't exist on this slate.
No.
Yeah.
So really, you're playing wide receivers that. So on the Cincinnati side, right, like Mike Thomas, Taylor, Irwin, like these guys have to play because of an injury. That's the only way they're going to get into the game. And then on the Rams side, Skoranek's going to play some, but he'll be like, he won't, like you said, he won't be 1%. He'll be 5 to 10%. He'll be substantial ownership for someone in this range. The guys that I'm thinking about that I don't think are that bad of a play are the guys who return kicks. Maybe this is the Devin Duvernay special for you, where you almost banked the solo milli here. Brandon Powell returns punts for the Rams. Trent Taylor returns punts for the Bengals, and Chris Evans returns kicks. I mean, assuming all the chalk players and some of the studs get there, like if one of these guys return a touchdown and get 6 points, they could easily get there.
Yeah, I'm with you, and that is a great point, especially on these concentrated slates. That's when those $5,000, $5,500 players can win, because there's not enough scoring from the $6,000 to $9,000 players to balance that out. It's you need to jam 4 studs and that guy. So yeah, I mean, it's super gross, but it will be unique. You absolutely could win a solo first place with a lineup that has some of those guys, and you just have to accept that most of the time they're not going to do anything, and that's okay, right?
And honestly, we've actually seen a slate recently where a 0 from a 5K player has won. Right? If things break the right way, that can definitely happen. So now, if you include these other backup receivers and tight ends and stuff, if you decide to go that route, they're all less than 1% owned. Are you playing all of them? Trying to play all 10% each or 15% each? Or are you just picking a couple? What would generally be the strategy here?
That's tough, man. I mean, I guess the good thing is the ones you mentioned, there's not that many of them, right? I think you probably mentioned 4 guys.
Yeah.
I'm curious what you think. I've kind of settled. I don't have a strong reason for this, but I've kind of settled on if I'm not playing a guy at least about 8 to 10%, it's kind of not worth it. If I have a guy like 3%, it's just even if he hits, I just don't have enough lineups to really do something with it. So, I would probably lean at least playing into these guys at 10% each if you're going to do it. I probably wouldn't play 100% of my lineups with those guys in it. So, kind of if you go with your list of 3 to 4 guys, 10% each, that would be maybe a third, 40% of your lineup, something like that.
Okay, cool. And yeah, I agree with you. I think, anything less than that in MME is you're drawing thin. Even if it hits, like you said, you have to have the right combination around it. So, all right, the second and probably maybe the best option, I would say, are low-owned MVPs. So that excludes Kupp, Stafford, Burrow. It probably excludes Mixon, Chase, Higgins, I would say, maybe Akers too. I don't know. I guess I'm throwing this over to you, Jack. Where do you draw the line? What do you think is a good low-owned MVP? What do you think is even too gross for you?
Yeah, I think this is interesting, and I will briefly pause the low-owned MVP, and I want to talk about one more You brought up salary, and then I think the fourth. So you brought up trash guys, low in MVP, leave salary. I think the fourth one is the lineup construction, specifically the number of players from each team. We very often see favored team have heavier exposure. We've done our typical scan of the popular sites. Sure enough, Rams guys are projected higher. So I think lineups with 3 and 4 Bengals will be relatively more unique. So I think if you take a step back and think about those four different approaches, I'm kind of at the point where choose 2, right? At least 2 of them.
Yeah.
I think you could play Chase, Mixon, Higgins, captain. Like you said, they're not going to be MVP. They're not going to be 0, but they're going to be low enough that I think you could probably make one more pivot. So for example, if I played Chase with at least 3 Bengals in the lineup, I think that would stand a very good chance of maybe not unique, but being very low duplicated. That's just one example.
For sure, and we've seen this before, right? Where we see a 3% MVP get there, but 50% of those lineups that have that MVP, 60% are all just jumbled up in just a couple of lineups because people think, okay, that's different enough. I'll play Odell at MVP at 3%, and then they jam in chalk the rest of the way, and that still gets duplicated 100 in this contest, 1,000 times, right? So you still have to take that extra step.
Yeah, and that's a good point. If you take away one thing from this video, do not use all the salary. Just don't do it. I don't care if it has a 0.5. We've seen a slate, Brian, where there was a 0.5% owned captain or MVP, and it was duped 100 times, right? Because it used all the salary. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. So, all right. So speaking of salary, how crazy is it on this slate? How crazy can you get with how much you leave on the table?
Yeah. So I think, I'll flip it back to you and ask you just a broader question about the game, because I think that the answer to that depends largely on if we think the game has a good chance of hitting under on the Vegas total, which obviously means stud players are going to bust, and there's more opportunity for cheapos to be the high scorers. So what is your take on this slate on the over under, the kind of the game scoring environment?
I mean, I can certainly see it going under, right? We see the Rams get conservative when they get a lead. We've seen that time and time again. The Bengals have scored 5 offensive touchdowns through 3 playoff games, right? They've been very fortunate to get to where they are, and now they're facing this defensive line of the Rams. They could easily underperform their offensive expectations. And I think if you're going to have either salary being left over or a really low-owned MVP get there, it has to go under the total, where there's just a couple touchdowns to go around, and whoever the MVP is gets 1, maybe 2 of those and has the best production in the box scores. Whereas from a salary standpoint, to get different and crazy, you probably need something like that to happen in order to leave a bunch and still be live.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I, listen to you say that. I think that does give me, more confidence than an average game that leaving salaries is viable, because again, there are ways for these guys to fail and for the total to go under. Do you think there's anything to the notion that Cincinnati basically shut out Mahomes at the second half? They played that 3-man rush coverage and basically dared them to run, and we know Stafford doesn't run, right? So I mean, do you think there's any extra kind of defensive momentum for the Bengals there that may hurt the Rams scoring chances?
It could. I mean, anything that forces the Rams to run more is a good thing for the Bengals. The Rams have been pretty poor from an efficiency standpoint, and Stafford's been great on a per drop back basis, and they've scored way more points when they've passed more in neutral situations on first and second down. So if they encourage the Rams to run more, the Bengals should consider that a success, and that would really change the way the game is played.
And that would also allow us to, I think, leave salary and have a better shot to win.
Yes.
So yeah, I think after that discussion, I think the answer is yes. This is a slate where you can leave some salary. I think it's like any time you do it, you kind of have to look at like any lineup that leaves salary. Look at all the players you could swap in and just kind of decide is it possible? It doesn't have to be likely, but is it possible that the player you have can outscore the other player? So easy example, right? Can Ben Skoranek outscore Cooper Kupp? No, it's literally, unless Cooper Kupp gets hurt on the first play, not happening. Can Ben Skoranek outscore, Tyler Boyd? Sure. And Jefferson, sure. A kicker, probably, right? So I think those are just easy examples of when you leave. Yeah, I don't think we can give viewers like a strict number, Brian, of like
Right.
amount of salary to leave, but it's just more of actually looking at some of the lineups, right, and making those decisions.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think again, yeah, will these trash players outscore Cooper Kupp? Probably not. So that's probably where you draw the line. Can they outscore a quarterback? Also, probably not. I mean, we've talked about this before, Jack. This is the fifth option. Play a backup quarterback in every single one of your lineups. They're 5K on this slate. They're not priced up. So I don't
Oh
know.
man, I did not even think about it, but now now I'm thinking about it.
Brandon Allen is 5K. Wolford is also 5K. There's nobody down there. If there's an in-game injury, or I don't know, 40 to 10 game or something. I don't know. Like,
You know what, man? I really don't hate it. I mean, of all the ways I certainly don't think it's any worse than playing a kickoff returner or like fading Cooper Cup. So, I mean, yeah, we've seen. Didn't you guys do analysis on this? I feel like it's won like a disproportionate amount of times.
it's extremely profitable over the course of a season when they're priced at 5K for sure.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So good call. I think that's the mystery fifth one. And final thing is, don't do like all of these in the same lineup, right? Try
yes.
to pick one or two pivots. You don't have to get that crazy.
Okay, so let's recap here, Jack. So the 5 strategies, and you just give me the best way to do those strategies. Fade Cooper Cup, best way to do that.
You will either play kind of the mid range captains and maybe a little bit of differentiation, like a low end player, 3 Bengals, something like that. You can either play the true punts, right? The kickoff returners, kind of guys like that. You can you can leave a fair amount of salary, or you can play like the super low MVPs like Tyler Boyd's, T Higgins kind of guys. I think, and then the fifth one is backup quarterbacks, right? Those are kind of the 5 ways to get unique there.
Yeah, I mean, as a man who is prone to playing Tim Patrick at MVP, and you actually won a showdown slate with Nelson Aguilar MVP, is that right?
Yep, it was Aguilar.
Okay, so
Yes.
it was Nelson Aguilar. So as a guy who's very well versed in these trash MVPs, what is the lowest guy you would go on this slate at MVP? Like, can Van Jefferson be optimal MVP on this slate? Someone like that.
I think he could. It's really dicey. I would probably. That's a tough one. Certainly Beckham. I think any of the Bengals receivers honestly could be.
Definitely.
I don't mind playing Boyd or Higgins. And again, you just have to ask your. Yeah, you know what? I think Jefferson's is fine. I mean, he gets high value targets. We've talked about that. He could conceivably score 2 touchdowns in the game and be optimal. Again, is it likely? No, absolutely not. But when you have a rare shot at $1 million, it might be worth taking the shot. I'm probably going to go there with some receivers. That's probably my preferred strategy, is kind of those like single digit captains or MVPs.
I think that's my preferred approach too, to be honest. So we'll be battling up at the top if one of them hits. So
Hope so, and then we'll lose to like 2 kickers lineups or something like that.
we didn't talk about kickers, right? I mean, one,
No.
can a kicker MVP get there? Two, I think these kickers will actually still be popular on this slate. So just any general thoughts on kickers in this large contest?
Yeah, they're popular. I mean, they do seem like objectively good plays on this slate, right? I mean, they're good. They actually get used a lot. I'm with you on the general universal strategy. I'm just not playing 2 kickers. Have we seen it win? Yes. But kicker MVP. Oh man. I mean, is it
15 to 14 game, McPherson 5 field goals, bankrupts the books because so many people have bet on him to win the actual MVP of the Super Bowl. Can it happen?
Yeah, I mean, it could happen. Are you gonna? Would you go there?
No, of course not. We're speaking of hypotheticals here, Jack.
Oh my God. I mean, people will go there. Man, honestly, the kickers will probably still be like 1% MVP, which is not that different than some of those lower receivers. So,
Yeah.
at the same ownership, I'd rather just take a shot on the receivers. Yeah, sure. I mean, it could get there.
Okay, I think that's a great way to close the show. So that'll do it. Again, make sure you subscribe to the channel, get notified when we go live, but make sure you check out all of the Super Bowl videos that are being posted. throughout this entire week. Different contest types, different sites, everything you need for Super Bowl 56. Make sure you check out our channel. Give us a thumbs up. We always appreciate that. Lets us know that you like the content. Any questions, comment on the video or hop in our Discord server to chat with us. Go follow Jack at dfs_magic_. Check out the lineup builder at Occupy Fantasy, occupyfantasy.com/lineup builder. Jack built it. We use it. We've won literally millions of dollars with it, so you should probably use it too. So for Jack, I'm Brian from Occupy Fantasy. Appreciate you listening, and good luck in Super Bowl 56.
Good luck.